So Michael Carrick is officially the new interim manager at Manchester United, and unsurprisingly, there are things that he needs to fix, and one of those things is the midfield. It's a position that's been a problem for a long time now, probably since 2018 when Michael Carrick left the club. Now, if I'm being completely honest, I'm not exactly expecting Carrick to be backed with loads of funds and loads of recruitment. I'm not expecting loads of players to come into the club into January. So if Carrick wants to fix the midfield problem, if he wants to find a balance, he's probably going to need to be creative. Now, if we take a step back for a moment and look at Carrick's Middlesbrough side, there was one player that always stood out, especially last season, and that was, of course, Hayden Hackney. He played more minutes than anyone else for the club and also completed by far the most progressive passes. He was sort of the fulcrum, the heartbeat for the team. He would sit just in front of the defence, pick the ball up and dictate everything, both the direction that Middlesbrough would look to play in, but also the tempo and the intensity. He was the hub of the team that kept things ticking over. The problem is, Manchester United do not have that sort of central midfielder. Now, this really is a problem because of Michael Carrick's style. We know at Middlesbrough he was a manager who wanted his team to have a lot of the ball. Statistically speaking, his team was a side that played a lot of passes and played with a slow tempo, which is all well and good. It's fine keeping the ball, it's fine knocking the ball around the back and being patient, keeping the ball. Of course, if you've got the ball, the opposition literally cannot score, so it's great to keep the ball. But first of all, you need midfielders which can do that. You need midfielders which can look after the ball and are calm on the ball. But also then, at some point, you need midfielders which can turn the tempo up, which can change the speed of a game and can also punch the ball through the lines. You see, when you play a slower approach, yes, it allows you to keep the ball, yes, it allows you to play safe, but it also allows the opposition to be a little bit safe. The slower you move the ball, the more time the opposition have to get into their structure. So they have more time to get into their defensive positions to make themselves nice and compact. So these midfielders need to be able to keep the ball ticking over, they need to be able to knock it round the back, but then they also need to be able to change that tempo, to move the ball through the middle of the park, to punch these passes through the lines. And if we look at the Manchester United midfielders, Mainoo is nice when it comes to controlling tempo, but he's not an expansive passer. Casemiro is not someone who is amazing at keeping the ball, simply because he's quite a risky player with his forward passing. And then we've got Manuel Ugarte, who again doesn't really have the ability to up the tempo of a team and doesn't really bring secure passing either. So yeah, that's a bit of a problem. What Manchester United really need is a player that can produce a pass map which looks a little bit like this. Someone in the middle of the pitch playing forward but also playing safe. That pass map was one of Lisandro Martinez. So the question is, could Lisandro Martinez come into the Manchester United midfield to help Michael Carrick find a greater balance, to turn this United team into a team which is good on the ball, can control the ball and control the tempo of a game? Well, if you want to do that, you have to start off in the first phase. If you are a team that wants true control, you can't play long ball football because that reduces the game to too many 50-50 duels. If you want real control, a lot of the time you have to be able to play out from the back. And on paper, in theory, this sort of works. Lisandro Martinez in midfield is probably one of the most press-resistant players at the club, despite actually typically being a centre-back. But he is definitely a player that could play just in front of the centre-backs, receive the ball under pressure and turn out. Technically, he's very good on the turn, excellent at playing under pressure. And if you were to sort of combine that with Mainoo alongside him, that's press resistance in the first phase that we have not seen at Manchester United, like, ever. I don't really ever recall seeing two midfielders like this, of this stature, of this sort of agility on the ball, this ability to evade the pressure. So this, in theory, would work for Manchester United. It allows the centre-backs to have the simple role of receiving the ball facing play, and then you've got these more technical players playing in the middle of the park, playing under pressure, playing with their back to goal, and sort of turning out of danger. The other good thing about these two in midfield together is as you move a little bit further forward up the pitch, as you're looking to slow the game down, as you're looking to keep the ball, well, both of these are very capable of doing this. We recently saw Lisandro Martinez in midfield against Aston Villa, and one of the things that he did very well was he just kept the ball, he kept it simple. He had opportunities where he could have played forward, but instead he chose to slow the play down. He chose to take extra touches, and that is crucial. Manchester United need that, and Michael Carrick will look for that. What United have had over the past 12 months, and perhaps even before that under Erik ten Hag, maybe even under Ollie, is when we get the ball, we like to play forward so quickly, which makes us potentially very dangerous, and it's a lot of fun to watch, but also it makes us so sort of exposed, so vulnerable to counter-attacking moments. Because if you move the ball quick, yes, the opposition are out of position, but so are you. So the second that Manchester United lose the ball, our players are then all over the shop and not in the position to recover the ball. So sometimes you have to play a little bit slower, particularly when the game can get a little bit emotional, when there's a lot of momentum in the game. Perhaps the opposition are really feeling themselves, they've had a couple of good chances, they're really throwing everything at you. What you need is someone who can take the sting out of the game. And Lisandro Martinez the other week against Aston Villa was exactly that. He showed the ability to keep the ball for his side. And I think, again, alongside Mainoo, that does make a lot of sense, because Kobbie is a player who does something similar. Not so much with safe passing, but by slowing the game down with his dribbling. Kobbie's a player who likes to take a couple of extra touches, and again, this might create a slower approach for Manchester United, which for us fans will be something very new, something different that we're going to have to get used to, because I think Carrick will ask his team to play in this way, to take more touches of the ball, to look after the ball. And for United, the challenge moving forward is going to be finding those tempo changes, that ability to then speed up again to make sure that the team doesn't go stale. Now, if we think of that with regards to Lisandro Martinez and Mainoo, again, it sort of makes a lot of sense. We have known for a long time that Lisandro Martinez is one of the best ball-playing centre-backs anywhere in world football. In fact, in terms of on the ball, turning under pressure, passing through the lines, I actually think Lisandro Martinez might be the best centre-back on the planet for that role. And he's one of the rare players that I think can actually take that into midfield. Again, we saw it against Villa the other week, that ability to play through the lines with a good speed, a good sharpness. Lisandro Martinez always has that intensity to the way that he plays, and again, that's the balance that United need. So in one moment we're taking extra touches, we're playing around the back, we are sort of controlling possession, controlling the flow of the game, but to control the flow of the game truly, you have to be able to manage those tempo switches, those situations where you then play a little bit faster. And I think Lisandro Martinez's eye for a pass through the lines is what brings that. The second you quickly play a sharp pass in here, and these forwards now quickly get combining, the tempo of a game immediately raises, but it's because of the ability of these deeper players. And like I said, we know Lisandro Martinez has this just incredible passing range. He's a player that can play over the top as well for runners like Sesko or Ahmad or Brian Mbeumo, Bruno Fernandes. These are all players that Lisandro Martinez can find with the ball in behind. And then the other thing that we spoke about yesterday was United looking to overload one side of the pitch before then finding the other side. So perhaps building down the left, you've got loads of players coming towards the ball in this position here. And the reason why you're doing this is to draw the opposition over so that eventually you get a moment where you can switch it to the far side where there's more space. Well, to do that, you know, it's a lovely idea, but you need someone that can actually play the switch. Now, Bruno Fernandes is one of those, and I think Lisandro Martinez would be as well. Now, this idea of playing slow so that you can play fast also works with Mainoo as well. Now, Kobbie isn't someone who will punch a ball through the lines. He's not someone who is overly progressive with his passing, but what he is very clever with his manipulation of body positioning and of the opponents. So Kobbie, I think, sometimes gets labelled as being too slow, but I think people are sometimes missing the trick of what he does. Because when Kobbie plays slow, he draws attention. He has a tactical gravity. When Kobbie gets the ball, people know that he can dribble, so they get towards him to try and stop him. So players look to go and press him. But Kobbie can deal with that. He can absorb that pressure. He can play through that pressure. He can dribble through these players. He's a bit of a cheat code against teams that want to press and want to jump. And what this does, if Kobbie can beat these two, if he can find a way through, now the space really opens up. And that's why this pairing, in theory, could be quite nice. You've got Lisandro Martinez with the passing, you've got Mainoo with the dribbling. It works in terms of slowing the game down, but also then speeding it back up again. Now, of course, the obvious flaw of having these two in midfield is the amount of ground that they are able to cover. They're not the biggest players, they're not the most leggy players, they're not the quickest players. So that would be a bit of a concern in terms of defending transition situations. But again, if Carrick is to be a manager who asks his team to play a little bit slower, to control the ball a bit more, hopefully there will be less demand for that. There will be less demand for players covering, you know, the pitch at 100 miles an hour, because the ball will be doing a lot of the work. I think that's something we'll see under Carrick. So that may give us the opportunity to play a different type of midfielder. When you are an end-to-end team, you absolutely need that physicality in the middle of the park. But when you're a team that controls the ball, you can let the ball do the work by using intelligent players. And that could work with Lisandro Martinez and Kobbie. Now, there are always situations where you're going to have to defend as well, and it does lack a little bit of size and perhaps screening ability in front of the back line, which is why I went for Heaven and De Ligt at centre-back, because I think they, at the moment, are two of our better defenders in terms of form this season. But I think it's a really interesting idea. Now, can I sit here and say that I'm confident this will happen? No, to be honest, I think it's a bit of a reach. I said right at the start, I think if Carrick wants a true solution, he's going to have to be creative. So that's what I've tried to do today. I've tried to bring a slightly different solution to the problem that we've currently got. Of course, there is also the argument that you just go and sign someone. You know, Ineos do their job, they back the manager, they bring a player in January. That would also be lovely. That would be my ideal solution. But if we want to be creative, for certain games perhaps, Lisandro Martinez into midfield might be something that we can do. It sort of masks some of his defensive weaknesses that he has at centre-back and allows him to thrive next to Mainoo. It could work, it might work. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Is this an idea that could work or not really? Is it nice on paper but on the pitch doesn't really play out? I know a lot of you guys have asked for Lisandro Martinez in midfield in the past, so maybe we're about to see it. I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments. But apart from that, we are now finished for today's video. So thank you very much for watching this one. Hope you have enjoyed it. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.